I am the host, Richard Ravenbrook, a man, a life coach, and a spiritual mentor who has endeavored to find real spiritual truth and self-enlightenment. With experiences in various ministry types, pagan traditions, and even magical paths. With a love for Mother Earth and the balance of life, I work to channel spirit and to help educate and mentor those striving to deconstruct from mainstream religion and to empower them to find the divinity within themselves and to the truth around them. The messages are focused on everyday life, creating an environment of real coexistence, a world of mutual respect, love, and dignity. The pagan preacher is all things, the preacher and the pagan, speaking from the wisdom of spirit. Hello, everybody. This is Richard Kent, host of the Pagan Empire podcast. I want to come at you today to talk about a subject that has been brought forward a few times this week, and that is the question of how do we deal with religious difference? How do we deal with situations of, family members being different religions, different beliefs, and yet trying to have a life together? And to be a part of each other's lives when some religions directly oppose of various religions and various traditions cohabitating together in the same place, or even remotely accepting, the fact that someone else believes something different when it directly opposes their faith. It is difficult, and it causes many issues in family, in work environments, in schools. It happens everywhere. Once a person reaches an age of accountability and a desire to follow a specific path, or maybe they don't choose to follow anything at all and people are forcing them to. But regardless, how do we deal with that difference? How do we deal with people disrespecting, not appreciating, not understanding the right of choice? How do we deal with them somewhat persecuting, even in good intention? And what that means is, in their heart, they believe what they're doing is right. They believe that they have to convert in order to be good, that they have to teach what it is that they have been taught, or somehow they have failed. Educating people that that's not true, that conversion is not up to anyone on this earth. Conversion is up to each and every individual according to their own heart and their own purpose here on earth. But yet they have family members that oppose their beliefs, or we have parents that oppose of their children's beliefs. We have, right now in America in 2023, we've got a massive assault against transgender and various other people that merely just want to live a different lifestyle, or they just want to live being who it is that they are. And yet, for some reason, people just can't grasp the concept of it's okay to be different. It's okay to not be in the normal box of what people are considered normal, because there is no such thing as normal. Normal is that little box called control. And when you can make everybody fit in that little box of normal, then you have controlled the masses. Because in that box, there are rules of society. And as long as you stay within that box, everything in society works perfect. And when people start to get outside that box, people get scared. They get nervous because it's, all of a sudden people are beginning to think for themselves, wanting a life for themselves, wanting to explore more of what's out there rather than just what they're indoctrinated in the schools. I think everybody knows that public schools are nothing compared to what they used to be. There is no real education. There really is no, and I'm not saying we don't have good teachers, because we do have good teachers. But the education process is based upon government and what the government tells teachers that they have to teach. Teachers aren't allowed to teach anymore, sadly. But we're talking about how to deal with religious differences in our homes, in our businesses, the schools, and various other places. And it begins in each of us. That's where it begins. Whether you be Christian, whether you be Wiccan, whether you just be an eclectic practitioner, whether you be Hindu or Buddhist, Muslim, where it begins is just us focusing on us and letting people be who it is that they are. And you're going to say, well, but my religion says I can't do that. That I have to minister my belief, or I have to push them aside, or I have to cast them out because they defy what it is that I see as truth. But we have to look, and we have to look deep, because I think the problem with spirituality nowadays is that we have lost touch with spirit, and all we have is a book or books. And half of them we don't even realize that they are inspired books, because the spirit hasn't gone anywhere. There's still inspired works of spirit everywhere in today's society. Even on these podcasts, spirit speaks all the time. But yet many people are taught that the only way you can find truth is to read a book from thousands of years ago that has been rewritten dozens of times, have been misinterpreted dozens of times, but that's all we have. And that's absolutely false. We base these assumptions of, well, we can't get along with people not like ourselves because this book says so. But what we don't understand is many of the things in those books have been misinterpreted, misquoted, and we have stopped feeling what Spirit would tell us to do. And we just look at the book, we read from what we see, and we just go with it. And we just blindly follow not a God, not Spirit, but a book that has been written by people that we don't even know, never have known, that our ministers and our preachers and whoever else that does that never knew. And yes, I'm talking about Christianity. I come from Christianity. At one time, had a strong love for Christianity, because I believe in the heart of Christianity is goodness and is truth. But somewhere down the line, Christianity went extremely wrong. In corporate Christianity, they just completely, and that's about as far as I can really go without really getting really deep into this. But I left the church for a reason, because I knew the truth, and I knew the truth was not in what they were teaching, or should I say that they were only teaching 10% of what the truth actually was. And the sad part is many ministers knew that they were only preaching a small percentage of that truth, but yet they just continued anyway because the overseers and people like that were, they were told exactly what they could preach on, how to preach, just like the schools are, and how to educate. Everything has to fit in that box. But learning to deal. I had a person come to me the other day and speaking about a family member of theirs was Christian and felt that they needed to, kind of push their belief upon a family member of theirs, a child. And the person was asking, how do I maintain my family and how do I keep this family unit going and yet be respectful of each other's differences, because one was a Christian and one was basically an eclectic witch. And obviously those two, without diving deep into understanding, they conflict. How do those people deal with each other? And as I've said, the only way to deal with that is for each person to actually understand the differences and to respect those differences and to understand that you are not called to convert each other, but you're called to be who it is that you are and to raise your own children, and no one else is responsible or has the right to educate your child in any religion or theology without your permission. It's about respect. It's about understanding those differences. But it's not easy, is it? It's far from easy. Because I said in many religions, even Christianity, Muslim, and maybe even some others out there, there's a bold push to convert. They feel that they have to convert. And we've got to come to an understanding and an education to teaching them that no, it isn't. You are not called to do these things. And I understand as a minister, they use different scriptures like, going into the highways and byways and compelling them to come in. And that's fine sometimes. But where we draw the line is when you keep pushing and you keep pushing and you keep pushing, because even scripture talks about when a person says no, it means no. When a society says no, it means no. When a family household says no, it means no. To wipe your feet off and go the other direction. The problem is we have Christians out there that don't do that. They want to picket pagan festivals and they want to protest metaphysical stores. And they forget about that choice that everyone on this earth has. They feel like they have to do these things. And to you radicals out there that feel that you have to do that, because I'm not talking about all Christians. I'm focusing right now on the radicals that would strip everybody else of their beliefs if they could. But why does your God depend upon you to do these things? The answer is he doesn't. Because you were never asked to do those things. And I've said many, many times in all of our practices, in all of our religions, that if we just loved each other for who we are, and let each other be who it is that we are, and believe what it is that we believe, and let the gods handle the rest, whoever you consider as God or the goddess, let them handle everything else. But we can love each other as brothers and sisters, as family members, as
and start letting go of just that book. Start diving into real spirituality. What does your heart tell you? What does Spirit tell you within when you are with that family member? Or you're with that friend that believes differently than you are? You still want to be their friend, don't you? And obviously, if it's a family member, you still want to be. What is Spirit telling you? It's all about freedom. It's all about free choice and liberty. Because nobody that can't be who it is that they are is not free. They may look free, they may walk happy, they may pretend to be the best thing, or but we know deep inside, because it's called depression, and we've seen many, many people that have walked the walk and looked exceptionally happy. I'll use Robin Williams as an example. One of the best comedians out there. Everyone thought he was just a wonderful person, and died due to depression. It happens every day in this country because people are afraid to be who it is that they are due to whatever persecution, or doing what it is to please family. They want to walk a certain path. They want to be a certain person, or they want to dive into a certain practice, but yet they feel like they can't because their family will push them to the side, or people just won't accept them. They won't respect them. And they will lose so much in society just for being themselves. It's sad, but it's true in this society that we are in. And part of the purpose of the pagan empire is just that, in striving to create harmonious coexistence between religions. We have to educate people on real spirituality and real enlightenment, and getting out of just taking religious dogma from a book, but actually looking within ourselves, exploring the world for what it is, looking at reality, and using those things to create an environment where we can all coexist and be who it is that we are, whether you be Wiccan, whether you be Christian, whether you be transgender, whether you be gay, whether you be heterosexual, whatever you are or choose to be, that you can be that in this world and still be fully accepted for who you are, without judgment, without condemnation, and without persecution. You say, well, that's not going to be possible because you're just always going to have those people that are going to hate. And that's been true for all these years. Through all these different fights, even here in the United States, we've done everything from eliminate slavery to, women's rights, women's right to vote, to all kinds of just things that should have never been in the first place, that we've had to try to filter out. And most of the things that were done in a religious aspect if you look deep enough. And that's the problem. Maybe we need to replace religion with spirituality. Religion is just following man-made principles, or simply following rules that man says that God has created. But spirituality is following the direction within you, a calling that is within you, a direction, a compass that is within you. It's not looking at any book. It's reading from within, understanding from within, and trusting the things that are within us, that little voice that's inside us that tells us what is right and what is wrong. And I'm going to tell you first off that if your religion tells you that you cannot be, or that you have to disown a family member because they don't believe as you do, I can't say that that's not spirit. Because even in Christianity, it says that God is spirit. And it also says God is love. And when you start talking about these things, and this is why it's so important to be spiritual, not religious. And this whole thing, and I know I've talked a lot about Christianity, and may even sound like I've been preaching a little bit, but because this is directed a great deal towards Christian people and learning to accept people that aren't Christian. And that if we look deep enough into spirit, we can understand that you can still be Christian and you can still be devout to your religion and still be in that family unit and still work with society that is not Christian. We can coexist and cohabitate peacefully and lovingly. It is possible. And just letting spirit, let the gods do the rest of the work. That's been our problem for so many years, as so many people feel that they have to play the role of their God. That we've got to convert. We've got to get out there and force people to do what it is that's right if they're not going to do it on their own. But that goes against everything that spiritual liberty speaks about. It is not our job to tell someone how to live. It is not our job to tell someone their lifestyle is wrong. It is not our call. It's not our duty. And it definitely isn't our right. Because when a person is born into this world, that's their life. We have to understand that. It is their life. And nothing and no one has the right to tell them how to live or what they should believe. It happens on its own. And when we force things and we force religion down people's throats and we fail to accept other religions as being just as right as ours, then we put people in a mental and emotional prison that sometimes honestly kills people. Or if it doesn't, they live half a life because they lived a life that was fake. They lived a life that they felt they had to, but they never truly dove into what they truly wanted. This life is about experience. It's about exploration. And if something's calling to you in your heart, whether it be whether it be in witchcraft or whether it be in any kind of paganism, whether it be in Wicca or being a Wiccan or an eclectic witch, because, we do know that not all Wiccans are, Wiccan is a religion and it's separate from just witchcraft. But when we dive into these things, if you feel that's calling to do those things, and I know I kind of got off topic again, sometimes that happens with spirit, but just trying to listen to that calling. Well, and I've heard people, when I've got a curiosity for, crystals and herbs and doing, follow it. Well, I don't know exactly what I'm doing and I don't know where to start. Nobody does. It's just a matter of starting somewhere. There's a phrase that I learned a long time ago that when the student is ready, a teacher will come. Just start somewhere. Go get a book. Look online. Ask somebody. When you begin to dive into that topic, that subject, that practice that you're looking for, It will open up if you're true to it and you're sincere to it. It will happen. But don't think that the obstacles won't come against you either, because they probably will. Because there's forces in this world that sometimes want to keep us from our true paths, our true nature. But just be who it is that you are. And I say this almost on every podcast because that's the essence of spirituality, whatever you be in paganism. Because paganism is an umbrella term for many different traditions. Their paganism isn't just Norse. It's not just heathen. It's many, many different aspects of things outside of the corporate Christianity. But listen to each other when you're in a family unit. I know I've kind of gone a little bit of here and a little bit of there, and I do that sometimes. But if you take anything from this short podcast, when it's talking about family members and work associates and things that think that they can't get along because, well, I'm a Christian and you are a acclaimed witch, we can't get along. Those are just labels. Those are just how we define those labels. Hollywood and things have destroyed labels and destroyed. Because if I go into a church and I, with no knowledge whatsoever to people, and just ask and just say what comes to your mind when I say the word witch, and probably 99% of them will have the Hollywood idea of what a witch is. But a witch doesn't necessarily mean that. Most of the time in a modern society, it's the very opposite of that. Witches are healers. They have an understanding of nature and the balance. They have an understanding of the elements that make up this universe. It's not evil. It never has been. Even the man Jesus that walked this earth knew that. He himself studied many different things, just as that witch did. And if we get down and study enough, get out of that book, just that book, we will begin to see the truth that we're all very similar and that we need to get out of that normal box. We need to get out of that religious box and what religious people tell us and start diving into a spiritual society where we're all free to be who it is we are. If we can let go of those labels and those, how do I say it? It's just those labels, and I hate labels because labels are too easily, we perceive those things differently. And that's what really stinks about labels, is it's too easy to be confused. It's too easy to be misunderstood when it comes to those labels. That we can get along. We can coexist. We can, if we take the time, just like the Christian and that witch. If that Christian says, well, what do you mean by a witch? Well, it means I believe in using herbs rather than pharmaceutical medications. Or I believe that I can change my environment through intention and manifestation. Well, so does the Christian when they pray. The same things. Most witches, in that label, they believe in karma, or the fact of, what you send out, you get back in return. But in Christianity, believes the same thing. It's rewritten is slightly different. It says that what you release in heaven shall be released on earth, and what you bind on earth shall be bound in heaven. It means the same thing that the witch just said. And if we look close enough, we'll see the similarities in all religions, that they're all written slightly different ways. And some of the older church leaders tried to suppress real knowledge, tried to suppress, just like the life of Jesus. The Bible talks about 3 years of Jesus' 33 years of his life. What happened during those 30 years? I know what happened in those 30 years. I know where he went. I know what he studied. Jesus was basically a magi. He was a man of the wise. Basically what most people would consider today to be a male witch, sorcerer, magician. Many different labels, many different titles, but simply a follower of the truth, the reality of all of us. And most modern witches follow that same thing. It's all about labels. And I hope some of this podcast makes sense. You know, when I sit down and I do these podcasts, I don't have anything prepared. I sit down and I usually meditate for 5 to 10 minutes and just asking basically what it is that I need to speak about and how to speak about it. And that the right words will come out at the right time. And the truth of the matter is, we have let religion in this world destroy us. It wasn't religion that did it. It was us. We used religion, and we still use religion to hurt each other. All these bills against transgender and all these other just crazy things that are going on right now. Using religion to base how we tell people how to live. One religion, not religions. We're using one religion to say, well, you can't do this because it's wrong. Well, if you're not that religion, it's not wrong. And religion needs to stay out of politics, just like it needs to stay out of our individual lives when it comes to group unity. You know, it just means that, we can be who it is that we are, but we need to keep it within us. Keep it within our homes. Keep it within just the understanding that it's personal. Spirituality is personal. And I understand that this topic it's tough, and it can be extremely rough, especially when you have children. I understand that, you want your children to be just like you and to follow the path that you believe to be true and whatever. But we can't, because that's not right. It's not spiritual. And it's definitely not godly in any kind of sense whatsoever. And I don't care who or what you consider God. There are many different gods. Even Scripture talks about it. The fact is, there are. And we have to be open to the fact that it is people's rights to follow those things, or to follow those gods and to follow those practices. Just think next time when, you have a family member that is different. A different lifestyle, different religion, different tradition. And you're just not quite sure how to handle it. Your religion says, well, I can't be with that person. I can't be yoked with those people. Listen inside. Maybe you can just be an example without having to preach down people's throats. Now, I'm not talking about just the Christian. I'm talking about everybody. Because even the witch many times can convert just as easy as the Christian. And the Hindu and the Muslim, whatever it is, let people be drawn to you or to the spiritual part of that, not the push or the fear. Fear-based religion has got to go. It does. It has no place in society today. We don't want fear-based religion, because if you're following something strictly out of fear, then it's not real anyway. It has to be genuine. It has to be real within you. This has been Richard Kent. I thank you for taking the time to listen. I hope I've made some sense. If you feel free to comment, feel free to offer suggestions. Feel free to, to let us know that you want to be a guest on this, because we are seeking guests right now. Remember our Pagan Pen Pal program? You can sign up on the website at www.thepaganempire.com. Just be blessed, everybody, and blessed be.
Thank you, everyone. This is Richard Ravenbrook. From my heart to yours, I hope you are blessed. Please be a blessing. Share these podcasts. Share my short videos. Tell the world the work that's being done. Help me open the minds of those so closed. Help me bring into the fold those seeking truth and enlightenment. Be blessed.